Alright people, if you want to maximize building muscle while minimizing fat gain on a bulk, this is for you. A lot of you guys saw my why I choose not to bulk at 135 pounds video, so today I want to talk about what you need to know about bulking the correct way. No fancy workout montage in between, I'm just going to lay out all the information to you. Now a lot of you guys think that because I don't bulk myself, I'm like 100% against bulking, when that's simply not true. Now, if your goal is to maximize muscle gains at any cost, then yes, bulking is the best approach. But just because it's the best at maximizing muscle gains doesn't mean it is the best approach for everyone. I'll explain. All right, so first I'm going to define what bulking is, and then I'm going to talk about who should and who should probably not bulk. Then I'm going to go into the juicy topic of how to bulk properly. So think of dirty bulking versus lean bulking, that sort of thing. And lastly, I'm going to go into some considerations that you should have if you're going to bulk. So the definition according to Healthline is bulking is a bodybuilding term referring to a progressive increase in calories consumed beyond your body's needs along with intense weight training. While some consider it unhealthy, others insist it's a safe and effective way to gain muscle mass. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be a progressive increase in calories consumed, but let's see another definition. Medical News Today defines it as bulking involves consuming excess calories to build muscle. Bodybuilders commonly use bulking as a way to increase their muscle mass before competitions. Now, let me give you my definition. Bulking is when you intentionally put your body in a caloric surplus over a certain period of time, while also consistently weight training with the goal to increase muscle mass via weight gain. With that in mind, in order to bulk properly, for one thing, you must be consistently working out. If you're not even able to consistently follow a routine, you shouldn't be bulking. In that case, if you're just eating a caloric surplus without working out consistently, you're pretty much just gonna be gaining fat. The second thing is you need to track so you know that you're in a caloric surplus in the first place. Now there's two main ways to track. You can either track your calories and macros using a food scale and something like MyFitnessPal, or you can retroactively track your body weight and aim to see the number on the scale go up after a certain period of time. So with that in mind, let's consider what's not bulking. Just focusing on eating more protein is not bulking. Sure, it is definitely a good thing to focus on consuming more protein, but just because you're consuming more protein doesn't mean you're gonna be in a caloric surplus. In fact, protein generally has a higher thermic effect, so theoretically, the more protein your diet consists of, the more calories you're probably gonna have to consume because of that thermic effect. Now, the second thing that wouldn't be a bulk is if you're involuntarily eating in a caloric surplus on some days. Now, while yes, for that specific day, you might be in a caloric surplus, but if you're taking like a main gaining or gain-taining approach where something like this might happen, you're not consistently being in a caloric surplus every single day for that period of time. Thus, there's really no reliable way to ensure that you're actually in a surplus, and I would consider that not a bulk in this case. So now that we defined what is bulking, what's not bulking, let's talk about who should be bulking and who should probably avoid bulking. Now, the first group of people that should probably bulk is if you want to maximize muscle gain. Now, this is with the caveat that you're currently at a lower body fat percentage, let's call it sub 15%, because once you get into those higher body fat ranges, additional body fat gain from a visual perspective will actually make you look smaller because less muscle is revealed. TLDR, if you care about aesthetics, getting to too high of a body fat percentage would actually end up making you look smaller than bigger. Now, the second group of people that probably should be bulking is if you're at a super low body fat percentage that's not healthy for your weight, or you're simply underweight. On the flip side of that, the people that shouldn't be bulking is one, if you're currently overweight or you want to lose body fat. Number two, if you're generally more skinny fat and you're trying to chase aesthetics, so think about that like classic lean fit look, you're basically trying to maximize your body composition. And group number three is if you currently don't follow a well-rounded workout routine to actually reap the potential benefits that come with bulking. So you're the type of person that goes in the gym, you're like, okay, what should I do in the gym today? Let me do bench press today. And then day two passes, what am I gonna do now? Let me do lat pull downs, let me bench press again. Like, if you don't have a sound workout routine, then it doesn't really make sense to be bulking. So with that in mind, if you're looking for, in my opinion, the best workout routine for your goals as well as your schedule, consider applying for my one-on-one fitness coaching program where I pretty much provide that all to you. Okay, so we defined bulking, and then we talked about who should be bulking and who should probably not be bulking. So now let's talk about how to bulk properly. So let's start with the whole dirty bulk versus lean bulk debate. Now, in general, no matter who you are, you probably should avoid dirty bulking. Now, I define dirty bulking as pretty much eating in a caloric surplus with no limitation. You pretty much eat whatever you want with the goal to be in as big of a caloric surplus as you possibly can. Now, for one thing, this is incredibly irresponsible for your health, even if you're super skinny. But the second thing is, it's not all that much more effective for muscle growth compared to lean bulking than you might think, especially for experienced lifters. Especially considering that a lot of people out there want to look not only muscular, but also relatively lean. Dirty bulking is essentially taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back when you bring in the consideration that you're going to have to cut later on. And the worst part is, at a certain point, the bigger the surplus doesn't mean proportionally the more muscle gains you get, but it does pretty much mean proportionally the more fat gain you get. In other words, the bigger your surplus after a certain point, the more body fat you're just going to gain without really that much more increase in muscle mass. And this is especially true among experienced lifters, so someone who's been lifting consistently for over a year. I'm going to cite a video from Dr. Eric Helms that I thought was really good. It's going to be a link in the description. I'm going to be referring to this video quite a lot for the remainder of the video. Okay, so now that we cleared up that you shouldn't be dirty bulking at all, let's talk about lean bulking, which I define as bulking with the secondary intention of minimizing fat gain along the process. In other words, you're trying to maximize your body composition, which essentially means you're trying to gain as much muscle as possible while minimizing the fat gain along the way. Now, you achieve this by eating in a controlled calorie surplus, which means that you're gonna have to track so you can actually control the amount of surplus that you're actually in. There's 2 ways to do this. Like I mentioned, you can either track your calories and think, okay, let me eat a percentage above my maintenance calories. In this case, you're gonna have to track, calories as well as macros. And then the second approach is retroactively tracking your body weight and thinking at the end of the month, I'm gonna allow myself to gain X amount of pounds. If I go over that, then I'm gonna have to chill the next following month. Okay, so let's get some numbers into this. If we know that we should be lean bulking, how big of a caloric surplus should we actually eat in? As well as how much body weight should we be gaining on a consistent basis? Well, I'm gonna lay it all out to you right here, right? Well, ultimately, it depends on your workout experience. How long have you been consistently training for? Generally, newer lifters, so let's call it anyone who's been lifting consistently for less than a year, can get away with being at a bigger caloric surplus and having that mostly be muscle mass gains compared to fat gain. While more experienced lifters generally will gain proportionally more body fat than actual lean mass as the surplus increases. Thus, the recommendation that Dr. Eric Helms gave if you are a newer lifter is aim to be at a 10 to 20% surplus from your maintenance calories if you're a newer lifter. Meaning if your maintenance calories is around 2,500 calories, a 10 to 20% increase would be 250 to 500 calories. Meaning in total, you want to be consuming around 2,750 to 3,000 calories on a daily basis. Stay within that range. And then if you're tracking your body weight retroactively or doing both, you want to aim for a maximum increase in your body weight of 2% per month. Remember, this is at maximum. Meaning if you're 150 pounds this month, by the end of the month when you track your weight again, you want to see at most a 3-pound increase, which would be 153 pounds in total. On the other hand, if you are a more experienced lifter and you've been working out for, let's say, consistently over 1 year, you want to aim to be in a 5 to 10% surplus at most. Meaning if your maintenance is 2,500 calories, you want to only be in a surplus of around 125 to 250 calories. So in total, 2625 to 2750 calories on the high end. And then if you're taking the retroactive body weight approach, you want to see a maximum increase in your body weight of 1% of your body weight per month. Meaning, again, using the same example, if you're 150 pounds, in total you only want to see an increase of 1.5 pounds at the end of the month, bringing you to 151.5 pounds. Once again, these recommendations were taken from Dr. Eric Helms' video. I'm going to link it in the description. It's such a good video. It provides you a lot more clarity on the truth of bulking. And now we talked about how to properly bulk, dirty bulking versus lean bulking, all that stuff. Let's talk about some miscellaneous other considerations you want to keep in mind when you're bulking. So first off, you want to be getting regular checkups with your doctor to measure resting heart rate, high blood pressure, get a blood test to see if cholesterol is too high from bulking, all this stuff. In my mind, it's good to have those preventative measures in place, especially when it's your first time bulking, just so you're making sure that from a health perspective, you're not doing any adverse damage. The second thing is, if you're a newer lifter, you don't think that you need to bulk in order to build muscle. You in fact still can build muscle in a deficit. Again, it's mentioned in Dr. Helms' videos here for more clarity. The third thing to keep in mind is that you're focusing on training intensity just as much as you're focusing on bulking. At the end of the day, in order to maximize muscle growth, you're gonna need to train hard in the gym as well. So it might not make sense to be bulking at the end of like a hypertrophy phase where you're heading into your deload week. Instead, I would recommend for you to start the bulk at the end of the deload week, heading into your training phase again where you're gonna be ramping up intensity once more. Meaning if you're injured or you can't train because you're traveling or something like that, you probably shouldn't be bulking or eating a caloric surplus during that time because there's really no benefit. Again, you're just probably gonna be gaining more body fat. Another thing is if you're an experienced lifter and you're like, dude, I just prefer to be leaner year round, then you don't need to bulk. You can still make progress, albeit at a slower rate, and it's gonna be much harder and you're gonna have to focus more on your training, but it is still possible to make gains if taking a main gaining or gain-taining approach. A lot of people would downplay the effectiveness that can actually yield, especially for someone who's like not a competitive bodybuilder or you're not a competitive powerlifter. It might just be better to take that slow and steady route if you hate the idea of having to increase your body fat and then decrease it later on. And ultimately, if you're like, Tyler, I don't know what to choose, I'm like kind of in between it, what you can do is try being in a like very small caloric surplus. Let's call it like 50 to 100 calorie surplus. Now, of course, this is easier if you're tracking calories, but chances are if you're main gaining or gain-taining, you're probably gonna wanna take a more intuitive approach. Think of it as if you're currently leaner and your body weight hasn't really fluctuated much at all, then what you can do is add like a protein shake at the end of the night for an additional 100 calories right there and kind of leave it at that. That can be kind of like an intuitive way to be in a small caloric surplus. And this way at least kind of ensures that you're avoiding the more deficit side of main gaining, so being in like a slight deficit. Think of it as like minus 50 calories. Instead, you're probably gonna be closer to the plus 50 to plus 100 calorie mark. And because there's always gonna be a margin of error on what your true maintenance calorie is, I also recommend retroactively tracking your weight and seeing maybe aiming for like a 0.5 to 1% increase in body weight at the end of the month. 1% being on the high side, which would take you closer to the lean bulking side. But if you're at like half a pound, that can also be a good way to see, okay, you know, at least I'm avoiding being in a deficit at least. So now you know the strategy on how to bulk properly. But if you're still looking for more personal guidance on your fitness goals, maybe get a better understanding on, okay, how many calories should I actually be consuming in the first place? What are some examples of recipes to actually hit those calorie goals that actually taste decent and I can like cook in a reasonable amount of time? Then I highly recommend you apply it again to my exclusive one-on-one fitness coaching program where I pretty much do all of that for you. The whole aim is to take all the guesswork out of getting to your fitness goals so you can just focus on executing and see the progress. So with that in mind, that's gonna be a link in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know there's a subset of y'all watching that want to bulk, so hopefully now you have a better understanding on how to do it properly and where you fall in the spectrum of should I bulk or should I not bulk. Just because I choose not to bulk doesn't mean that you have to choose not to bulk either, so at least now you have a better understanding on, okay, how should my approach actually be. So with that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Leave a like on this video. It will be much, much appreciated. It's the best, easiest way to support me. Hit subscribe to level up your physique, and don't forget to hit the bell notification, which is pretty much the real subscribe button. So if you haven't done that, please do it now. Hit the bell, hear it like dings, have that little icon come up, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.